I meant to record this one like 2 weeks ago when when it was hotter and more seething in my brain. But the weeks passed and I just had a ton of shit to do, so I hopefully am still quite well. I don't want to be hot on this, but in order to make an interesting podcast, I kind of have to be hot on this. We're going to talk about the awful, wonderful thing that is the internet today, and how it has made my life infinitely better and infinitely worse. Which I think is a story that a lot of people are starting to experience with the internet nowadays. Now, on the whole, obviously the internet is a fucking amazing thing. One of the most significant, if not the most significant inventions in human history. The ability to connect with people who who you've never met in person, probably will never meet in person, but you're able to find an emotional connection with. That's fucking incredible. The ability to access every single piece of knowledge known to man. That is incredible. Something that someone 30 years ago couldn't get it wrap their brain around. Like, think about that. There are most of the people alive today could not fathom what the internet would become when it was first created. That blows my mind. But we are slowly working our way into the realm where that is no longer the case. Where the population of people who have mostly grown up with the internet are becoming the dominant group, and the people who spent their childhood years or even their young adult years without the internet are kind of dying out. I don't think this is necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's certainly going to make it a lot easier for me to relate to other people, but it is a fact of the world progressing. Uh, and I feel like I personally I'm in this like in that perfect in between realm because I was born in 1993. So like I don't know when AOL really started popping off, but I imagine it was in the late 90s or something, maybe even mid 90s. But I vaguely remember uh, when I was younger having AOL like dial-up internet. You'd hear that fucking screeching dial tone on your computer whenever you wanted to connect to the internet. I very vaguely remember that from when I was like 6 years old or something, somewhere around there. Um, and to be honest, as a kid in that time, there was not a lot to do on the internet. Pre YouTube, there really wasn't. Um, it's like basically you had like websites for the channels that you watched, like Cartoon Network and Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, and they had like games for their shows on it. I vaguely remember. Actually, I don't even know if I got to play any of those games because it took like a half hour for the Kids Next Door game to load, and I'm not even sure if it played properly once it did load on my computer. Um, Internet was real slow back in the day. Uh, so I'm not even sure if I actually used any of those sites because it's like that's pretty much the only. It's like those, and then the shit you'd find on the back of like cereal boxes and shit. That's pretty much the only thing the internet was useful for children back in the day, and for like researching stuff. Like I very much remember what I think I was in either fourth or fifth grade. I had to do a research project on the ocelot for my science class. Um, and I had to go to the library to look up information on the ocelot. And I remember actually using a floppy disk to save info on it, like to save art, text documents and such, and pictures. Oh man. God, I don't even remember the last time I've seen a floppy. The last time I saw a floppy disk was about 2 years ago now, I think, when I was taking a computer repair class. That's the last time I saw a floppy disk. Fucking wild. Um, it's bizarre. It's just now dawning on me how quickly internet technology is progressing. But yeah, so I was born in that sort of in between time where I was my very young years, the internet was kind of useless to me, especially since speeds were fucking awful. It wasn't until like my like late grade school years, like when I was in like seventh or eighth grade, which was when YouTube finally came around, that the internet finally became useful to me. Um, because that's when I started. That's when you had like your early viral videos, like Arnie's Pizza Shop. Someone ripped Ultimate Showdown from Newgrounds and put it on YouTube. Actually, it might have just been Albino Black Sheep who made his own YouTube channel. Uh, yeah, you had the early viral videos. You had people ripping other videos that were pre-YouTube viral. That's how I found out about Rooster Teeth, because somebody just posted all of Red versus Blue onto YouTube. And so that eventually I found out, just because they had their own website on the end of each video. That's how I found out about rvb.com, and which would eventually become roosterteeth.com. Uh so so the internet only really started to develop as a mainstream social platform when I was I guess in like, yeah, like late or mid high school years for me, like, yeah, like late junior high, early high school, throughout all of high school. That's when the internet was slowly building up more and more. And it wasn't, I actually didn't get Facebook till like 2010, I think. I never had a MySpace. I just didn't know what that was, I guess. So, and then again, I didn't really, again, I like the last podcast. I didn't seek out things when I was younger. I just took what was in front of me for my entertainment. So it was mostly TV and mostly reading. Uh, and video games. Definitely a lot of video games. But yeah, that's kind of, so it wasn't until like late high school that I got Facebook, um which was actually kind of fun back in the day. I talked about it last time, but shortly after that, when I got into college, I made my own community page, and I got to meet all of these people from across the fucking planet. Like, I met people from Britain, I met people from Russia. It was just, and I'm just now realizing how special that was. Like, it didn't, I guess I just didn't understand how monumentous this was. Of course I didn't. I was a fucking teenager. I didn't realize how insane that was, that I was doing that for the first time. And the Facebook was actually fun back in the day, when it wasn't driven by the worst fucking algorithms on the planet, and community pages weren't grinded into the dust by Facebook's algorithm, because you got to pay to make your page popular on Facebook now. You got to get that money. You got to get that paper, boy, in order to get your opinions heard anonymously. So that's one of the big reasons why I gave up on Facebook, is just, well, specifically on my Facebook page, is because it just, the barrier to entry in terms of engagement became so obscenely high for someone who's not putting any money into a page, that it just becomes not fun to do. So that's kind of why I eventually gave up on that. And very quickly realizing now that that's the way that a lot of not in the same exact way, but in a more broader sense, that's kind of how the internet is starting to develop. Because the reason I was going to record this 2 weeks ago was because it was right after I had finished Karekano, and I just started posting opinions on it on Twitter, because that's always a good thing to do, to post opinions about a um, series that has a lot of heated debate behind it, and you just want to post your opinions about it. Um, that was a mistake. Because, but not in the way that I thought it would. Because it's uh, like I gave the show a 7 out of 10, which is a good score. Fuck you if you don't think that's a good score. That is a good fucking score. It's literally like if you go to my anime list and you select 7 out of 10, in parentheses it says good. That is a pass. That is more than a passing grade for a series. I enjoyed Karekano. It was very obvious from the way I was posting that I enjoyed Karekano. And yet, for some people, that just isn't enough. It's not enough if you don't absolutely love their favorite series, because then you get people jumping at you for not getting it. And it's just so fucking tiresome. And there were two interactions in particular that really pissed me off. One was I posted that the main character, Yukino, you're going to find this out very quickly about me, is I am fucking awful with anime character names. Like, unless they have a super, very distinct name, or it's a character that I've obsessed about for years, I'm not going to remember their fucking name. I can barely remember the name of people from anime that I watched, like, last month. Like, I couldn't name all of the main characters in Gintama for you. Gintama is one of my favorite series, but I couldn't remember the name of his sensei, of Gintoki's sensei, going into when I want to watch the Gintama the final in theaters. Like, I couldn't fucking remember his name, even though he's such a crucial character. I'm pretty sure it's Shoyo now. I'm pretty sure. But only because he was such a crucial part of the movie, and they kept saying his name over and over again, and I'm really trying that hard. So, as we go through more and more of this unscripted content, you're going to find out that I'm just not good with anime names. So, but I'm pretty sure, going back to Karekano, that the main character's name is Yukino. I'm going to go with that. And I posted about how, basically, I fucking loved her, and that she was awesome. And I made reference to the fact that she's basically like Asuka from Evangelion. Which is true for the first, like, 3 episodes. Which I very much understood at the time. It's kind of I was hoping that the way I phrased it made it a little bit more funny. Like, oh, yeah, it was fucking funny. Because I phrased it as, like, I'm thirsting after this fucking character. Like, this character makes me horny. Let's not beat around the bush about it. Gainax makes some very attractive character designs. And I made reference to the fact that her personality, aside from physical characteristics, her personality bore a lot of similarities to Asuka, who is, I can't say for certain, but Asuka from Evangelion might be my favorite anime character of all time. I am obsessed with her in the fact that all of her negative traits reflect a lot of my negative traits. I'm very much aware that they are negative traits. Let's be totally clear about that. I'm not obsessed with Asuka because I think she's the perfect fucking waifu. I am obsessed with Asuka because she is just as broken as I am. But I guess the arc with Yukino really kind of coincidentally, considering that Karekano was the first thing to come out of Gainax after Eva, I believe it was, is that Yukino is basically Asuka if she got over her mental hangups, if she actually had like normal friends that she could talk to, if she could actually have a relationship with another person, a romantic relationship, and feel complete as a result of that and grow past that. Which is super fucking obvious from the series. But I made my cutesy little post about thirsting after Yukino because she reminded me of Asuka. And then some fuckwit on post quote tweets it with that graph of like the no correlation graph. Like it's an X and Y graph with a bunch of points scattered throughout it, and then it says no correlation at the bottom. And his caption is like, Yukino is like us. Me quoting me saying Yukino is like Asuka. And it's like, first of all, you're fucking wrong. Because in the first 3 episodes, she very much is like Asuka. And I described it to him how exactly she was like Asuka. And then he's like, well, yeah, but she grows out of that really quickly. And I'm like, no fucking shit, she grows out of that really quickly. How do you think I watched the whole fucking show? Do you think I didn't fucking notice, you fucking peon? What is wrong with you? And it's like I had to point out the fucking joke to him of like, it's fucking Twitter. I'm not going to post 10 fucking tweets of analysis in a row about how a character grows. That's not what fucking Twitter's for. And like, I'm sure some people find ways to make analysis threads on Twitter interesting, but personally for me, Twitter is the least conductive place for analysis possible. It's not good for it. It isn't. You say your short little thing, and if you want to link something else that makes it more palatable for analysis consumption, link it. Because people will, if people care, they will care. If I care about the thing that you're trying to analyze, if you hook me with a certain thing, I'll go to whatever link you post and I'll check out your analysis. I'm not going to read a fucking 20 tweet thread of a character analysis. Because it's just not, Twitter is not structured in a way that is pleasing to read like that. It just isn't structured that way. Twitter was not designed for a fucking 1,000-word essay chain tweeted together. That's not how it was designed. It was designed for people to post about how their fucking lunch was yummy after work. Like, again, I come from, I assume most of you do, but I assume most of us still do, but I come from the era when Twitter was still 140 characters instead of 280. So you could barely say fucking anything back then. Like, you had like 3 lines of text. That's as much as you could get. And before you had to make the next tweet. So I don't find analysis threads interesting on Twitter. That's why I don't do them very often. If I'll cap off at like 4 or 5 tweets in a row. That's what I'll do. Otherwise, it's just scattered random thoughts. If you're looking for analysis on Twitter, you're looking in the wrong fucking place. Because I'd like to think that for as off base as I am about a lot of shit, I'd like to think that I still use Twitter the way most people use Twitter, which is post a random thought, go about my business, retweet some fan art. That's how I use Twitter. That's how I see a lot of people use Twitter. Now, if your experience differs, good for you. I hope you're enjoying it. I don't fucking enjoy it. But don't fucking expect full analysis tweets. Don't expect that. That's not what this fucking website is designed for, and it's infuriating me that people just don't fucking understand that. And then, very briefly, the other fucking asshead that pissed me off, was quote tweeting me when I said that I was thirsting after the character, and he's like, ooh, thirsting after a 14-year-old girl, huh? I'm like, get the fuck over yourself, dude. It's a fucking cartoon. How are we in 2021 and we're almost in 2022, Jesus Christ, and we're still trying to fucking pull that card? It's a fucking cartoon. Get over yourself. I don't want to fuck actual 14-year-olds. They're gross. I've actually noticed that lately. I am, like, when it comes to, like, real life women, I am into a bit more mature women. Anime characters are not real people. They're not real girls. My sexual fetishes for anime girls are vastly fucking different than my sexual fetishes for real life people. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, get over if you can't tell the difference between a fucking cartoon and a real person, you have a fucking problem. That's the end of the discussion for me, and you should probably seek some help about it. But yeah, and the reason I'm just now 20 minutes in getting to this core fucking idea is because it just I ended Karekano. It was my 1,000th anime completed on my anime list, and I gave it a 7. It wasn't the best thing in the world, but I enjoyed quite a lot about it. There was a lot of really awesome shit in it, a lot of really not great shit, but I enjoyed my experience overall. And then some fucking shitheads on the internet got to swoop in and just fucking kill my boner. Just completely, like, sour the end of my experience with this show. And I really tried to not let the internet morons get to me, but when that is the majority, but this is the majority of my communication now, is the majority of my communication is talking to random people on the internet, because I live in a fucking shithole town where I don't think any people my age live. Certainly not any that I would have anything in common with. Most of my friends live at least a half hour away from me. Like, most of my real life friends are at least, like, the closest guy is like a half hour away, and the rest are like an hour and a half away. So I can only talk to them through the internet. So most of the time, it's either talk to a bunch of high schoolers at work, which not super interested in talking to a bunch of high schoolers, because they're still children, or talk to people on the internet who I can't see the age of, but from the people that I choose to talk to seem to be normal fucking people who are capable of having a normal fucking conversation. Except when you have these random fucking shitheads coming in on your fucking tweets and ruin your goddamn night. The internet is so wonderful and so awful at the same fucking time. And I'm reaching, like, peak internet dichotomy. Like, it's really becoming super fucking frustrating, especially considering the fact that, for all intents and purposes, I have an internet addiction. Like, I spend way too much fucking time online. Like, if I'm not watching anime, I'm just on Twitter or on YouTube for hours at a time. And there are days where it impedes my normal people function. Like, it makes me forget to do things that I was supposed to do. So for all intents and purposes, I have an internet addiction that I eventually need to get over. So, and I'm sure a lot of people are in the same situation. So it's not something to totally beat myself up about, but it is something that needs to be addressed in my life. Because especially when the internet just turns sour on you in a matter of minutes, it really puts a damper on your night when you're like, well, what else am I going to do? It's 11 p.m. All my friends are asleep and I'm still wide awake. Guess I'll just keep posting. Oh, well. It's just so tiring to see people not get the point. Like, at least in real life, when you see that someone's not getting the point, you can turn around and walk away. Like, you can just do that. Like, you can choose to not see that interaction with the fucking person who didn't get what you were talking about. You can choose, like, you can see, like, you don't even have to have that interaction in the first place, because you can see Like the people from a mile away who just aren't going to get it. Like sometimes you can just see it. Like you're like, oh, I'm just not going to talk to this person about that. I'll talk to these other people who I know are going to fucking understand me. Like you can do that in real life. On Twitter, you can't really do that unless you block every fucking person on the planet, or you just make a fucking make a private account, which I'm not going to do because I'm also a massive narcissist. And again, I'm addicted to the internet. So every time that little bing heart pops up on one of my tweets, I get that stupid fucking rush of endorphins that keeps me tethered to this fucking monitor. It's really insidious how they do that. And we all recognize that they do that, but we just keep fucking typing along anyway. Oh, another like, yay. I hate myself. Oh, God. But where the fuck was I going? Right. Like, at least you can... Yeah, at least in real life you can avoid this shit. On the internet, it's really hard to just avoid fucking stupid people. Even when you're friends with the stupid people. Like... I'm debating whether or not to specify the conversation, because if I say what this conversation is, everyone's immediately going to know who I'm talking about. But I'm gonna keep it as vague as possible, and if they find out, if you find out, feel free to comment on the video and tell me why I'm wrong. Okay? But they were just going on this tirade again about how people don't like a certain part of a certain story. And they just keep, like, they actually, like, and they just go full on, like, you're a paraphrasing them, they say, you're a fucking idiot if you think this part of this story is bad. And they, like, cherry pick, like, the best moments from that. And I'm like, well, hold on. That's a really long part of the story, and there's a shit ton in it that's just not interesting, with a bunch of side characters that aren't that engaging. So, the core part of that arc is really good, but it's really fucking long and filled with a lot of unnecessary shit. So... how can you be so fucking blinded by the fact that you love this arc that you just don't get how someone couldn't like it? Because that's one of the few things that I pride myself on as like an absolute about me, is that whether I like or dislike something, I can very much understand why someone else would like or dislike it. Like, if they state... like, all they have to do is, like, give me one or two sentences description of why they don't like something, and I'll be like, okay, that's understandable. Like, even when it's, like, my favorite shows, like, I can understand why people don't like Hunter x Hunter. I can definitely understand why people don't like Your Lie in April. I can understand why people don't like Sun and Moon. It's so easy to just take a step back and understand that not everyone values the same things that you do. Because themes are not the only fucking part of a story. I'm very quickly drifting away from the title of this podcast, but I don't fucking care. Like, if just the theme is what you're judging, like, the quality of a work on, that's cool for you. I'm glad that you only have one thing that you care about. I care about everything from a story. I care about the narrative that's presented. I care about the dialogue of the characters. I care about the pacing at which important information is delivered. I care about the visual aesthetic, the cinematography, the animation. I care about the sound design and the music and the voice acting. There is so much stuff to care about besides themes. Is it really that? And there's literally thousands of things about a show that people could like or dislike, even in the simplest of shows. Like, there could be one tiny thing that happens in a show that immediately makes someone like it or dislike it. It's not that fucking hard to just open your brain a little bit and understand that the things that people value about a work might not be the same things that you value about a work. And that's just the fucking internet in a nutshell, because you're so used to just that's social media in particular, and also YouTube as well, because you're so used to just posting your own ideas. That's what social media is designed for. It's designed for you to be an arrogant piece of shit online and just post whatever you think of as law. And even if that's not what you're doing, the way social media is presented kind of makes it look that way. Or at the very least, people have been so conditioned by other people acting this way that they just expect that from everyone else. That if they say something online that they can't, that person can't possibly fathom that there is an alternative, that someone else would think a different way, that they are wrong for thinking that way. And it makes me fucking insane. I am becoming the Joker every fucking day. It's absolute fucking hell. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Well, I got more out of this than I expected. Trying to think if there's anything else relevant to this particular topic that I could talk about, but I could talk about politics, but no, I couldn't. I really couldn't, because that would just, I'm already in a fucking tizzy about fucking cartoons. It's fucking cartoons, people. Don't take this shit so goddamn seriously. Don't call people fucking morons for not getting the themes in your favorite cartoon. It's not that hard to be a civil fucking human being. It's really, really not. I say with as I recognize that only a couple hours ago I retweeted someone doing the exact same fucking thing. I am an absolute fucking hypocrite. And I hate it. And I'm trying to get better. But I don't think I will as long as I'm on Twitter. So maybe I will. Maybe I won't. But I'm going to enjoy the ride to hell in the process. Yippee.